Welcome to the news and why it matters. I am Sarah Gonzalez, today joined by Stu Burguiere.
That's me.
Matt Kibbe is back in studio, so happy to have you back. And Jason Buttrill, this guy over here. Stu, what was the top story today?
I think we take a state of the race on the Democratic primary. Where does everything stand? We have, looks like we're going to have a Joe Biden appearance pretty soon, but where do we stand before he jumps in?
27 or so candidates, something like that?
Something like that.
In there?
I gotta go. I need to go jump off a building. Get to that, Matt.
The news of the day is just like the news yesterday. I have Beto fever.
Oh no! It's affecting your hands.
I need to cure you of
Gesturing
that.
wildly.
And I don't know how to get rid of
someone.
it. I need like penicillin or something.
Jason.
This news that I just saw this morning absolutely freaked me out. Almost did a little Twitter trigger that I've been known to do.
Gosh, here we go.
But I never thought we'd be in a situation where an American who turned traitor to his country was involved in joining a terror group, pretty much, responsible for killing a American citizen, and then gets out just 18 years later out of prison. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Mm-hmm. Obviously a lot to get into there, but first we want to thank our sponsor, Riduzone. So, Matt, I don't know if you know this, I used to be like really fat.
Oh, stop it.
Like really.
Oh, stop
Look,
it.
that doesn't even look like me.
It doesn't look like you,
Look.
but I mean, it's definitely a difference, but you beat yourself up too much.
Well, I lost over 100 pounds, and I use Riduzone to maintain, but it's really great for losing weight. And might I say, summer is right around the corner. So if anyone out there is looking to shed some extra pounds before summer, Riduzone is your trick. So they've taken the good molecule in olive oil, put it into a capsule that you take before your meals, and it's been shown to boost your metabolism and help reduce your appetite. Get it before summer. Start it now, and in these few months, you're going to be calling and emailing, and you're going to be like, Sarah, thank you, because now I look great for summer. Go to riduzone.com, use promo code THEBLAZE, and you will get 30% off of a 3-month supply. We did the math for you. That's like $1.39 a day. So I think you can invest that much if you need some help with that weight loss plateau. Riduzone.com. All right, Stu. I guess I'll stay for this.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. So first off, I tweeted out a little while ago my latest sort of power rankings. We've been doing this thing where we kind of come up with our own little election model with all these, different dozens of categories. So if we can grab that from my thank you, from my Twitter, that would be great because I can end there. But let me show you the latest poll. This is from CNN. And there's some good news and some bad news for these candidates. Let's start at the bottom. Amy Klobuchar at 1%. That's bad news. Although I will say, Amy Klobuchar at 1% is still. Gillibrand is like, oh my gosh, would I desire to be at 1% someday? That she is invisible. Cory Booker at 3%. That's pretty bad. You would think if you're Cory Booker, you would like to make more of an impact than that. 3% is pretty disappointing.
He's got way more name recognition.
Klobuchar or Gillibrand or any of those. Yeah.
The crazy eyes alone are worth 5%. I would think.
You would think, but no. John Kerry. Now, why John Kerry is in a poll for the 2020 nomination?
This is what Cory Booker feels most bad about. John Kerry, who may or may not still be alive.
Right. I mean, John Kerry ran for the nomination in 2004, was it? Right? He was the 2004 candidate.
Yeah.
2004. It's 2020 we're talking about. Yeah, I mean, I guess he's probably still young for this group, honestly, when we get to the top of these polls. Elizabeth Warren at 6%. Again, that's not good for Elizabeth Warren. She should be higher than that. She's supposed to be a top-tier candidate. Bob Frank O'Rourke at 11%. Now, Bob Frank, it's a pretty good showing for his first real poll since he's announced. So 11%. Kamala Harris at 12%. Bernie Sanders at 20%. And then, of course, at the top, Jolton Joe Biden at 28%. Now, Biden is pretty close to announcing here. There's been a few things. First of all, he made some offers to people in New Hampshire and Iowa, consultants and such, that kind of signals, hey, he might be getting in the race. There was someone who had done ads for him in the past that was spotted out in front of his childhood home in Pennsylvania, in Scranton. You're going to hear the word Scranton quite a bit, more than ever since The Office. No one has heard the word Scranton more than you're about to start hearing it.
Well, he's middle class.
He's middle class Joe. He's from Scranton, that Katie's Diner that didn't exist for the last 20 years, but he was there. So you're going to be hearing a lot about that. But there were already somebody there, and then of course there was him kind of telling an entire audience that he was running. Did you see this clip? Here's Jolton Joe.
I know I get criticized. I'm told I get criticized by the New Left. I have the most progressive record of anybody running for the if anybody who would run.
He's a solid cover here, though. He's like, the first time I didn't ignore it, and then he realizes, okay, I can't get out of it, and basically, Lord gives me strength.
And anybody who would run.
So, look, we all know.
Are you sure that would? It almost looks staged, though.
Oh, really?
Are you sure that I don't know. To me,
It's possible. I think he slips a lot. Joe slips a lot.
But he's looking good. Like, he looks tan, rested, and ready.
Oh, yeah.
Probably had some work done, so he's...
Yeah, and I think, look, he's a legitimate candidate. I mean, there was a couple polls that came out, several pollsters released general election polls. Nobody performs better in them than Biden. I mean, I don't know that I saw a poll over the past couple of weeks that has Biden not beating Trump by either double digits or close to double digits, 8 to 11 points. The only person who really polls in a similar fashion is Sanders. Now, part of this is name recognition, obviously. I don't know that he's actually an 11-point favorite over Trump by any means, but he's a dangerous candidate. I mean, I think it's easy to dismiss him because he a lot of gaffes and he kind of seems like a silly guy, but he has some of that same ability that Donald Trump has for gaffes to just roll off of him. And, he's a fighter. He'll go in there and, I mean, if they get into a debate, I think they'll just talk over each other for 2 hours and everyone will just go home. You won't hear anything. Like, neither one of them will back down in that sort of scenario.
Or Biden will just start cracking up hysterically like he did with Paul Ryan, which was the most ridiculous thing, and he never got called out for. He literally just laughed the entire debate. Like,
he did,
what's going on?
And he interrupted him constantly. He jumped all over he wouldn't let him finish sentences. And Joe is not afraid of doing that. I mean, whether he's up to this at this point, I don't know. I mean, the last time he did really run through this process was 2012. He's certainly an older man, but Trump as well is an older guy, and he was able to do it. Here is they're fancy color coding for your pleasure here. If you're watching on television, this is the latest power ranking, and so the score is 1 to 100. If you don't know, we've showed this a couple times. And this is kind of where we have him set right now. I still have Bernie Sanders as the number 1, followed by Kamala Harris and Beto O'Rourke as 2 and 3. Biden's not in this yet. It's only announced candidates. You kind of see color-coded the tiers. So kind of front runners is the green tier. Next tier is, I kind of think of that as they've got a shot, right? This is a legitimate shot if things kind of go well, which is Booker, Klobuchar, and Warren in that next tier. The next one is if everything goes right, like if all of a sudden things start breaking their way every day, maybe they have a chance. Castro and Gillibrand are there. Then it's like, these guys don't really have a chance, which is Hickenlooper, Inslee, Buttigieg, Gabbard, and Yang. I mean, Buttigieg and Yang have been getting a lot of really positive press. So I think Buttigieg as a VP is a legitimate thing, I think. It would be your first openly gay candidate to be in that sort of role. He's done pretty well with the press. The press likes him a lot. It's a long shot.
Yang, you mentioned Yang. It's such a different, he's just so different from someone like Beto. Yeah. Like, I was just looking at Beto's website. It's like, because there's been a lot of criticism. And I don't want to jump over with your Beto fever here, but there's a lot of criticism, like no one really knows what he stands for. Mm-hmm. If you go to his website, you would assume...
That's why I have the fever.
Right. You would assume that you would see like something that says, where I stand on the issues or something like that. But you go to the website, there's a big sweaty picture of him. And there's 2 buttons. One says donate, one says shop for my t-shirts.
Yeah.
That's it. You go to Yang's website, oh my gosh.
Oh, yeah.
I think he has a stance on Zen decorating or something.
He has a stance on circumcision.
Circumcision, he's a big anti-circumcision guy, apparently.
I mean, who would have thought that would be a platform?
Yeah, no, he's been running since 2017, so he's had some time to put together a platform. But I mean, I think you respect that, right?
O'Rourke just ran for Senate.
Yeah, wouldn't it be the same platform,
right? He would have had the same basic framework.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give Elizabeth Warren some credit here. As crazy as her policy proposals have been, she's at least making them, which is not more than you can say from a lot of these people in the field right now. You're right. I mean, with Beto, it's interesting in that he did just run a race, a high-profile race where we supposedly found out where he stood, and now people are really coming after him. Which is interesting. I do think of him as a top-tier candidate, and Yang has separated himself from the complete unknown category. I think he's it looks like he'll be in the debates. He's crossed that line. He kind of figured out a little hole in the system to get 65,000 individual donors, which he's already achieved. So it looks like he'll be in the debates. He's getting some attention. I think it's largely there's a flirtation here, and this flirtation goes away. You never say never, but it feels like almost like a Herman Cain or almost a Fred Thompson type of thing, where like he kind of comes out and he does well in the polls, and he has not done it well in any real polls. We should point out he has done well in like online prediction markets, which is where like all the sort of white internet nerds that like him live. But that's something. It's more than you can say for John Delaney, right? Like I don't
What?
Yeah, he's a congressman apparently. The Beto thing I think it's been an interesting launch, because I think, and this is probably part of your mania here, Matt, but like, I don't know that I can remember a candidate with the guns being pointed at him by the rest of his party like we're seeing with Beto. They must see him as a threat, because they are coming after him early.
They definitely do, and the Bernie guys are totally freaked out right now because of that big raise. But you could go back to ancient times, 2016, and Beto O'Rourke was talking about the unsustainability of the national debt and how we can't afford to do that anymore. I think that Beto's gone.
Yeah, I think so too.
And he's been replaced with. I think this all comes down to 2 years ago, Joe Biden would have been the heir apparent, like the unbeatable name ID machine, donors. He's got it all, and he's a proven track record. He can fight the fight. But that's not how politics works anymore. Now it's like a game of survivor, and I think they're ultimately going to scrap the debates with 20 people on stage and just put Bernie and Beto on an island, and they're going to eat bugs and see who survives, and that's our candidate.
Oh, I think Bernie survives, because Bernie. I feel like Bernie has gone through a period in his life where he's eaten bugs.
Well, hold on. Beto eats dirt.
Beto eats dirt.
He can totally survive this.
That's true.
We
That's a
just
good point.
found out he eats dirt.
He eats dirt, and he puts human poop. in bowls.
In bowls. What a jokester, man. That's hilarious.
There's some other reality show then. Like I'm not a big consumer of these shows, but there's surely a show where you eat poop.
Yep, there has to be.
And eat bugs, and you survive, and maybe it's a combination of that and Bachelor, and is totally devoid of any idea, any policy. He's not going to be called out for contradicting past policies, because it's a beauty contest.
Yeah.
It's true, although
And he's so pretty.
He is very pretty. No, I don't really actually think he's all that pretty, but I guess he's, compared to Bernie Sanders, I mean, I guess he looks pretty good. But like I'm interested in that. Like what's being leaked against him now is the same stuff he would leak about himself in the general election.
Yeah.
Things like, hey, I actually stood up against big government. He's on record. Look, he's from Texas. He's a Democrat from Texas, but he had to win in Texas. So he's got all these positions where he's supposedly responsible, or at least pays lip service to that. And it's amazing that it used to be, there was a time where Democrats would come out and say, we need to balance the budget. Now him saying we need to balance the budget is used as an attack against him in a primary.
It's outrageous that he would say that.
I know. I mean, I don't believe him that he wants to balance the budget, but the fact that he said it didn't used to be a negative.
See, but I think he's totally Teflon coated. I think that he will morph into whatever the Democratic Party needs him to be. In a lot of ways, he feels like Barack Obama. Like it's this sense of coolness. And there's nothing else, and the rest can be filled in later. This is why he doesn't have any policy positions on his thing. That's not why he's running. That's now how he's running, and probably the people that do list out their positions have just made themselves vulnerable to attack.
Yeah, that's true. There's if you remember back in the day, Mike Tyson when he was champ, and he would just come out and destroy these guys, like 90-second knockouts of these former champions, and. The talk, they always used to talk about how if you can survive that first or second round, it makes you a lot stronger. I think that happened with Trump. I mean, Trump had that barrage when he first came out. He was hit from a million different directions, and he had the McCain comments. I remember when he made the McCain comments, I did not think he was going to survive that. And there was about 10 other times I did not think he was going to survive in that primary. But once he got past that first or second round, he was able to settle into the job a little bit. I think Beto's in the middle of that moment. I mean, if he can get through this where he's got Sanders people at rallies and coming after him. He's got people on the right asking him about third-term abortion. Everyone, he is really in the middle of this right now. And if he can get through this first couple rounds without really faltering, he may have a chance to hold all these people off and win. It's amazing.
So just before we go, I'd like to summarize here. The poster child of the left in 2020, okay, has achieved nothing legislative-wise. Has an arrest record of DUI and burglary. Let's see, wrote a fantasy about killing children, eats dirt, and tries to make his wife eat poop. Did I get that right?
Yeah, that's pretty much the resume.
Sounds about right. Back in a minute.
Fever is abating.
Really, there is a cure.
When you put it that way, it doesn't sound nearly as cool.
Before we get into Jason's mini-series over here, I want to thank our sponsor, realestateagentsitrust.com. So, turns out that everyone's father's brother's mother's cousin's dog sitter is also a real estate agent. And in Jason's case, his handyman at his house, also a real estate agent.
Right.
It's the new thing.
Came in to fix my washer and, did a great job. But he handed me his card and he has a little MLL whatever number at the bottom. Said, call me if you need a condo. I'm like,
So I'm going to say don't take that advice and instead go to realestateagentsitrust.com. Glenn and his team, he has these team of people and they vet all of the real estate agents all over the country. And we discussed this the other day. It's especially useful if you're moving across the country.
Yeah, if
right?
you're moving
Because
to a new area and you have no
idea.
idea. You can't even pick the person who walks by you at Starbucks as your real estate agent. You have to just kind of guess.
Yeah.
Or you're calling like the person who's listing the house or whatever, and that's just not the best way to do it. You have to have some process. And luckily, the best process is available for free. Just go to realestateagentsitrust.com and they do it for you.
Yeah, they share your values. They're fans of the show, and they're experts in their area. They do it full time. They don't dabble in it. So if you are looking to buy or sell, realestateagentsitrust.com. Jason, instead of putting it all out on Twitter, we're going to give you
I'm going to do it here. Exclusive, just for the reason why it matters. So I just read the article that John Walker Lindh, the American Taliban, is going to be released in May, which is absolutely insane. I was 22-year-old intelligence analyst with the Marine Corps, September 11th, 2001. Told that story before. We went on our way to Afghanistan at the time, and we started getting intelligence reports that there was an American with the Taliban. And we're just like, what? Just absolutely insane. But we started getting information about how he was radicalized around 1997 or so. This was a bad guy. He had been caught, as we're I think at this point we're pre-staging in Pakistan, he had been caught by the Northern Alliance and he was in prison. Well, the Northern Alliance called the CIA in, and the CIA agent, I'm horrible for not remembering the man's name, but a CIA agent went there to go debrief him and figure out, who this guy was. Of course, Lindh was lying, saying he was an Irishman, all these different things. Well, during that time, the Taliban that were captured, Taliban and Al-Qaeda, got together and hatched this escape plan. Killed a ton of people, including our CIA agent, John Walker Lindh. It was reported on that it was known that he knew all about it. He knew about the plan. He knew what was going to happen. He was being interrogated nonstop. Never said a word. He's complicit in that man's death. So he's a traitor. He's a terrorist. He's complicit in an American citizen's death. I was actually on the tarmac when they delivered John Walker Lindh to Camp Rhino. That was where our unit was stationed in Afghanistan. So I saw him. He was never apologetic, ever. He continued to spout off Taliban and jihadi type stuff while he was there. In fact, to this day, he still says things that are supportive of ISIS and still supports jihadist movements all over the world.
So you're saying he's a really good guy.
This is an awesome dude. Yeah, no, this guy's horrible. I cannot understand how a traitor who's been convicted of terrorism, who is responsible for the death of an American citizen, is gone in just 18 years. Like, how does that happen?
Seriously, how does it happen?
Yeah.
What's the reasoning for his release?
I don't know. I really don't. Like, that was whatever his sentence was, and it wasn't even 18 years because he was You know, he was I don't know, he was with us for at least, I think, till 2002 before he was transported back and then, stood trial and all that. So, I mean, what, like 16 years he was in prison, 16, 17, something like that?
That's really...
That does not fit the crime.
He's not showing any sign of being reformed, or...
No,
even if he was, I'm not saying you should release him, but I mean...
Exactly to the contrary. Like, he deserves a life sentence just for what he's done. But beyond that, he's not reformed. He's said that he's going to continue to support jihadist groups and terrorists. So literally, really, I would love, like, I just read this story today. I would love to hear if anyone knows, like, what their justification was for this. This is an outrage, absolute outrage.
I mean, it kind of feels like the attitude is shifting to PC culture, because we saw with the ISIS brides that there were a lot of people who sympathized with them and said, well, they should be let in. I mean, they got on the news and gave their sad stories about how they were just going through just a phase, please. Who doesn't go through that phase where you want to run Americans over and, murder them in the streets? I mean, who among us, right? And they got sympathy for that. So, I mean, I wonder if the attitude is shifting because of all of these open borders talks and immigration reform and having walls is immoral. I mean, do you think that might be anything?
I mean, I definitely think the attitude is shifting, or it's being coerced, by certain parts.
really affect the legal system, though, right? I mean,
that's what I was about to say. That doesn't stand here, because he should have been given straight up a life sentence.
Well, right, but so I'm unclear. So you don't know what his sentence originally was?
No.
Okay. So that's what we would need to find out then.
Yeah.
I feel like there's certain crimes, right? Like there's certain crimes in which, look, you might get reformed. You might even be totally turned around and have real positive outcomes. I just still want you away from people. Like I always think about this with John Hinckley. It's like, look, there's a lot of things I can forgive. Like you really shouldn't shoot a president. We should that should be a line in which if you shoot a president, even if you are like crazy and mentally unstable at the time, let's keep you in a room away from others. Yes. I mean, he's like, oh, well, he's going to go out and he's going to visit his parents on weekends, and then they're going to release him from prison. It's like the guy shot Ronald Reagan over an actress. Yeah. Like, no. Jodie Foster, I just don't feel like was worth the whole assassinating a president thing. I feel like you cross the line to terrorism, where you're going and you're fighting against us. I mean, we obviously have a crime that, treason that's kind of like the base level, that's what it's supposed to be. And for whatever reason, obviously he did not get convicted on that, or at least it didn't go to the full punishment. It just seems like there should be no excuse of someone being released in that situation. It was the case he admitted to. So
we can agree at least that we should probably keep our eye on this dude.
Yeah. See, and that's actually a good point, because somehow he got applied for and got citizenship to Ireland. So he has put in his request to being transported to Ireland. So Ireland will either accept him or they won't. They'll probably end up accepting him. But if they didn't, where does this guy go? Like, he literally will just go to some small town USA place and no one will ever know that there's a terrorist that supports ISIS and Taliban. And
it's very weird. I mean,
we have lists for I don't know, what's child pornography? What's it called? The list that you'll go on for that. Sex offenders. Yeah. Like we have a list for that, and I'm actually glad that there's something like that there. But there is no list for if you've been convicted of a terrorist. That's probably a good thing.
Maybe we put him in the locked room with those guys.
Yeah.
And let them work it all out.
I like that.
What could possibly go wrong there? Back in a minute.
That's like the guy in Norway when he shot himself.
So Matt, quick question for you. If I wanted to find videos, podcasts, whatever, of a libertarian, very awesome, very handsome, has a great mustache, where could I find that?
You go to Kibbe on Liberty, and you can get it wherever the heck you want to get it, because we are everywhere, YouTube, on Blaze TV, wherever you download your podcasts, and that's where you can get the definitive, one place only libertarian perspective on the world.
There you go. Wow.
All right, he wrapped it up. Oh my God, oh, that's you.
Wow.
Wow. And then we are doing Overtime next on Blaze TV. Don't forget, if you have not already signed up, you can, and you can use promo code NEWS and get $10 off of your annual subscription. Listen, I mean, things happen in Overtime. Okay, there are clothes being thrown everywhere. There's like
What show are you talking about?